Well, family, it's another Sweet Thursday, and we have a good one. It's another sourdough recipe. Hello, family. Welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. I am Vicki, and you're with Gravy in the Kitchen. So I am going to be making 2 sourdough breads today. I had a friend contact me yesterday and asked if I would make a bacon cheddar with dill bread. I was like, sure, I have all the things. I'll do that for you. And then I figured, since it's Sweet Thursday, we'll make a sweet one. So we're going to be making a chocolate sourdough bread. I'll leave a link in the description below of the recipe that I'm following for the chocolate sourdough bread. I'm not using my recipe, the one we use all the time. It's actually a different recipe, has different ingredients. So first we need to go ahead and get the cocoa bloomed. While that is cooling off, we're going to be working on the regular sourdough bread to turn it into a bacon cheddar cheese. Grab you a cup of coffee, family. Sit back, enjoy this video, and then when we're done, we're going to have coffee and sweet bread. So I have 45 grams of unsweetened cocoa powder in this measuring cup. We need to add 100 grams of boiling water. A 101 is perfect. Either stir that in. I'm going to set this aside and let it cool off a bit. And now we're going to work on the regular sourdough bread that we're going to be adding bacon and cheddar. So if you saw on Tuesday's video where I said I needed to feed my sourdough starter, I did. It was right there, and now it's all the way up here. It's beautiful. So we need 100 grams of sourdough starter. (102) is good enough. Turn it out to 0, and we need 325 grams of water. I always use filter water or my Berkey water. (20 grams of honey. 475 grams of all-purpose flour. (10 grams of salt. Mix everything together, and then for 2 hours we're going to do a stretch and pull for every 30 minutes for a total of 4. Then we'll leave it right here on the countertop, let it bulk ferment, and then tonight we can add the cheddar, bacon, and the dill before we let it do its overnight fermentation in the refrigerator. In 30 minutes, we'll start our stretch and pulls. Now for the chocolate sourdough bread, we need 120 grams of active sourdough starter. 121 is good enough. I'm gonna set the starter aside, and then later tonight I need to feed this. Cocoa powder has bloomed, dissolved in that hot water, but we definitely need to cool this down. So I have some cold coffee. I like the flavor of the coffee in anything with chocolate. It doesn't give it a coffee taste or the caffeine from the coffee. It just enhances that cocoa flavor. So whenever I do something that has chocolate in it, I like to add a little bit of coffee. That is the only thing we are tweaking on this recipe. But if you want to follow the recipe, that is fine. But I'm taking the water we need for the sourdough bread, which is 250 grams, dividing that in half and doing 125 in coffee and 125 in water. So 125 in coffee. And 125 in cold water. I'm going to mix the coffee, the bloomed cocoa, and the cold water together. All right, so let's add the cocoa mixture to our starter. Mix that in. We need 50 grams of sugar. 460 grams of all-purpose flour. Eight grams of salt. Because we are making a sweet bread, we want to add a teaspoon of vanilla. Get everything mixed together. And we're also going to be doing 2 stretch, pulls, and folds on this chocolate bread every 30 minutes for the next 2 hours. It already smells good. I have the timer on the stove set for 30 minutes, so we'll know we have to do this in 30 minutes, stretch and pulls. I'll bring you back when we're ready to do the last stretch and pull. That's going to be in 2 hours, and we're just going to let it ferment on the countertop for between 8 and 12 hours. But if you saw Tuesday's video, and if you haven't, you can go check it out right here. Plus, I'll have it on the end cards. We ended up with 4 loaves of sourdough bread. I do not put preservatives in my homemade bread. So if I don't eat it, it's going to mold and it's going to go bad. And I don't want that to happen. So what I ended up doing is, so this is all of bread 1, the leftover from bread 2, sourdough bread. I cut them up into cubes. I'm drying them out in the oven, 200 degrees. It's going to take about 3 hours to get them all dry, but every 30 minutes or so, I like to come in here and give it a toss. Now once they're dry, you can either leave them as cubes, which is what I'm planning on doing, so I can have dry bread cubes when I want to have dressing or stuffing. It's not just a holiday dish. It's a really good side dish. Or you could put it in a high food processor and make breadcrumbs. We've done that also. But I just want dry bread cubes for stuffing. Put this back in the oven. So this was bread 4. This is bread 3. I only have a half a loaf of that because the husband's going to want French toast later this week. So I'm just going to put this aside and I'll make him some French toast. Not sure what I want to do with the other ones, but I still need to eat lunch too. And the only other thing we need for the chocolate sourdough bread is chocolate chips, but we won't need that until tonight, as well as the bacon, cheddar cheese, and dill. We'll deal with that tonight, but I do need to cook the bacon. So I went ahead and took one of our 3/4 pounds of frozen bacon out of the freezer this morning. I needed this to thaw so I could get it cooked nice and crispy. I don't want soggy bacon for this bread. I need it to be really, really crispy. I want to make sure all the grease is removed and it's cooled down before we add it to our bread tonight. Okay, fam, I'm going to see you in about 2 hours when we're ready to do our last stretch and folds so we can let this do its bulk fermentation right here on the countertop. So this is the last stretch and pulls on both of these breads. So I have a little more water that I just keep on the side just to wet my hands just a bit. And then we're just going to go on 4 sides, stretch, pull, and fold. And now the chocolate one. It smells so good. You can smell the chocolate. It's very intense, and that's because we added coffee to it. Doesn't smell like coffee. It's just a very fragrant cocoa smell. All right, let me wash my hands real quick. We're done with the bowl. And I'm just going to leave it right here for the next 8 to 12 hours. Let it bulk ferment. And the bread cubes have been in the oven for 3 hours, 200 degrees, tossing every 30 minutes or so. But let me show you what we're looking for. So you want them dry where you can't smush them. And you can hear the crunchiness. I'm going to let these cool right here on the kitchen island so that I can put it in a Ziploc bag, and we have bread cubes when we want to make stuffing or dressing. We have all the other components. We've got the celery, the onions, and the carrots, the sage, salt and pepper, chicken broth. We have all the components, but we needed bread cubes. And during the time while I was doing the other 3 stretch and pulls, I went ahead and cooked the bacon. So that is ready for us tonight. So when we come back, we're going to go ahead and shape the breads, get them on a floured kitchen towel, put them in a bowl. We're going to add bacon and cheddar cheese to the regular sourdough bread, and we need to add chocolate chips to the chocolate bread. And then tomorrow morning, we can bake some bread. I will see you in about 8 or 12 hours when we'll get back into the kitchen and take care of these breads. This needs to go into a Ziploc bag. It's been 11 hours and our breads have risen beautiful. I'm going to do the bacon and cheddar first. So here's our sharp cheddar cheese. I cooked some bacon. I do want to give it a little chop. I'm going to see if that's enough. That's probably about a cup to a cup and a quarter of chopped bacon. Put some flour down on our surface. I do want to make it so it's not as sticky. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and start flatten it out so we can put our goodies. So there's the bacon, some cheddar cheese, and she also wants some dill. It's going to take some maneuvering to get everything in here, but we'll get it. It's the thing about sourdough, family. It is so forgiving. So I'm using my 2-pound loaf pan. I'm going to put that little bit of cheese and the flour in the bottom. And I'm going to let it sit right here on the countertop for about another hour or two to see if we can get it to elongate. Some more flour on my surface. And now we're going to work on the chocolate loaf. So I have 115 grams, and I'm using a semi-sweet chocolate chips. They do call for dark chocolate chips, but I like the flavor of semi-chocolate chips. And here's the other baking sheet. Put a couple chocolate chips on the bottom. Why not? And then I'm going to push some chocolate chips right there on the top. There we go. That's one. We need to let those glutens relax a bit. And then we'll be able to get it all in this loaf pan. I do want to put a little bit of flour on this one. It's getting a little sticky. Okay, perfect. Take all my magnets off. And I'm just going to leave it right here on the island for about another hour, just to see if I can flatten it out to fill in this 2-pound loaf pan. And then I'm sticking it in the refrigerator overnight, and tomorrow we get to bake these beautiful bread. A friend of mine requested a bacon cheddar dill loaf bread, so that's who this is for. And I figured since we had to bring all the things out, we'll make a chocolate chip sourdough bread in a loaf pan for the husband. I'll see you in the morning, family. Well, good morning, family. We're getting ready to put our breads in the oven. I have the oven preheated to 350 degrees. I'm using the 2-pound loaf pan, and I always bake those at 350. When I use a Dutch oven, I put it on 375 or 400. It just really depends. So let's go ahead and get these ready. Grab you a cup of coffee, family. So these been in the refrigerator for about 11 hours. They rose beautiful. I'm going to put a little bit of flour on the bacon cheddar cheese, and I'm going to put a sprinkle of dill right on top. Now I need to go ahead and slit that. It's going right down the center. And now the chocolate one. I do have chocolate chips on top, so I'm going to try to go around those. There we go. So I have them on a baking sheet. We'll put this in the oven. It's going to be a total of 45 minutes. But halfway through, I want to make sure I rotate them from side to side. Where it's connected right here in the center will also cook. It does have a little space, but I do want to rotate it about 20 minutes. In the oven, I have the timer set for 22 minutes. Now I need to feed my sourdough starter. So I have an emptied wide mouth mason jar. I'm going to turn the scale on grams, zero it out. And I can put my sourdough on here. And I have 184 grams. So we're going to need 92 grams of water and 92 grams of flour. Tear it out to zero. $92 grams. Stir that in with the starter. Tear it out to 0. And let's add 92 grams of flour. .93 is close enough. Stir that in. And now we have it fed. We're just going to leave it right here on the countertop. Let it do its fermentation. We either have to make bread tonight or tomorrow morning. We have to take out any discard, add it to our discard jar that's in the refrigerator, and feed it tomorrow morning. I'll bring you back when I'm ready to take this bread out of the oven and we're ready to slice it. The breads have cooled off. Look at that. Isn't it gorgeous? You can see all the bacon and cheddar cheese in there. Oh, it smells beautiful. And here's the chocolate chip. I'm gonna leave that on the parchment paper. Oh, we have a big hole, but that's okay. It's still beautiful. So the bacon, cheddar, and dill is actually a friend of mine. She requested that bread, so I made it for her. She's gonna be here later this evening to pick it up. Maybe I can convince her to let us have a slice of that. But as for the chocolate chip one, we can sample that. That belongs to us. It's kind of falling apart, but it's okay. All food-related mistakes are still edible. It tastes like chocolate. You don't taste the coffee. The coffee enhances the cocoa flavor when you're baking with chocolate. Family, this is really good. I think the husband's gonna be happy with this. I love this. And we fed our sourdough starter 2.5 hours ago. That's our start line. We are way up here in 2.5 hours. So I'll have to decide in the next hour or two whether I'm going to put that in the refrigerator, let it go to sleep without killing it until we're ready to make bread, or I need to make bread tonight. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Well, family, I just want to say thank you very much for hanging out with me on Sweet Thursday. Made a delicious chocolate chip sourdough bread, plus a bacon, cheddar, and dill for a friend. Hope she enjoys it as much as I enjoy making it. So if you don't mind, give this video a thumbs up. While you're at it, please subscribe. I would love to have you part of the Grammy family, making things sourdough, making things from scratch, making all the things we need to do to feed our family a healthy, nutrient-dense meal. Breakfast, lunch, dinners, and snacks. So until next time, y'all have a blessed day. Bye, family. I'm happy.